we go. So as you all know, we've been doing these diversity conversations just to listen and learn more about how the business partnership can better support minority-owned businesses in particular. And so I thank you all for joining us today for this conversation, and those of you who have joined the past two we've had as well. As you all know, I like to start with the mission of our organization, and that is to make Johnson County the best place to live, work, and learn. And as part of that mission, we're committed to making this a welcoming and inclusive place for all to grow and thrive. And our business community plays such a huge role in that. And we know the business partnership plays a role in helping to cultivate that culture and ensure that our own systems and practices are inclusive and equitable. And so the team has been taking incremental steps here over the past couple of years to improve our own internal DEI practices. We conducted the Humanize My Hoodie Ally training earlier this year. We continue to learn as much as we can through resources like the Anti-Racism Daily newsletter. United Way recently did a 21-day equity challenge. As you know, advocacy is a big chunk of work that we do, so we continue to lobby for legislation at the state, local, and federal level that promotes a welcoming environment for everybody. We're on the advisory board for Inclusive ICR, which is a regional effort to promote DEI. And we're partnering with local organizations to ensure minority-owned businesses have the same access to capital as their white peers, which, as we learned during the pandemic, that is not the case. And we've been making efforts to diversify our staff, our board, our committees, and our membership, ultimately, to ensure we've got all voices at the decision-making table. And I share all this so that you could be aware that we're making these efforts, but also because I know that there's more that we need to do and continue doing. And that's why we've invited you all, our board and our ambassadors, to join us, for these conversations with trusted advisors like Ying Sa to talk about how the business partnership can better serve minority-owned businesses and create this stronger ecosystem of support. So in August, we heard from Lee Vasquez, who's the Coralville resident, CLP alum, former leader of the Quad Cities Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, about the challenges and opportunities specifically for Hispanic-owned businesses. And in September, we heard from Chad Simmons, who currently sits on our board of directors. He's the chairman of Iowa Soul Food Company, the co-owner of Sugar Peach in North Liberty, and recently launched the Iowa Black Wall Street Venture Fund. We've got both of those conversations recorded as well, and we're happy to share those with you if you weren't able to attend. But today we are so grateful to have Ying Sa with us for our third diversity conversation. And Ying is the founder and principal certified public accountant at Community CPA and Associates, which has locations here in Coralville, as well as in Des Moines and Bloomington, and growing. And she's a member of the business partnership. Ying is also founder of the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Summit, which brings over 1,000 businesses of diverse backgrounds together each year to share, learn, and celebrate the immigrant entrepreneurship experience. They have their main event coming up here in Des Moines in November, and they do that every year. And they've got micro events throughout the state, including, they just had one not too long ago here at the Kirkwood Regional Center. Ying is an immigrant herself. She's a native of China and former resident of Canada. After coming to the US, Ying served 5 years as Vice President of Controllers for Wells Fargo Financial in Des Moines, and 6 years as the Chief Financial Officer for the Iowa Manufacturing Extension Partnership at Iowa State University. And I also would like to note that in 2010, she received the Iowa Volunteer of Fame Award, which is the highest award given for volunteerism in the state of Iowa, and she continues to volunteer in so many ways. Here locally, she's on our Better Together 2030 steering committee, which we're really grateful for, and she also serves on ICAD's board of directors. Ying is she's just an inspiration to all who come to know her. We're super lucky to have her in our community, and I'm super grateful to have her here today and for you all to get to know her better. So Ying, thank you for spending time with us, and the Zoom room is now yours to kick things off with some of your thoughts, and then we're just going to have a conversation.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. And I see 23 people online, so that's quite a good crowd. Thank you for the time here. Just a little bit of myself, and I sort of consider myself just really kind of double down on immigration status, right? Because I was born in China and immigrant to Canada, become Canadian citizen, then met my husband, and he wants to come to US to develop his own career here at Iowa State University. So we met and get married. So I came over to US, again, going through immigration process. So I can give you a lot of stories about doing immigration papers, because they're not easy and they're very scary. But in the end, I have dual citizenship and Canadian and also American citizen. So that's where I am. And going through that path, though, I really did open up your view in terms of diversity. I know diversity is a thing here. When I came to US, I always know that it's kind of fashionable words, and the people, big companies and the organizations are wanting to bring diversity into their workforce. It seems to be a thing that they're making efforts to. But in my mind, because I grew up in Toronto for 15 some years, so I actually never really placed the word diversity into a concept, because it was just a way of life in Toronto. And you hop on the bus, you'll see 15 different ethnic groups in there. So every kind of people you see on earth is all in Toronto. So that's kind of where I came into Canada. I came into US. I remember people will ask me, "Oh, where you come from?" Then of course I immediately say I'm come from Canada. Then that will be a really big stare, because they don't understand why you are from Canada. You don't look like Canadian. So I would add it. Oh, you mean where I was born, or what is my native? So I'm born in China and I'm Chinese. Oh, okay. So that answers the question, right? So that's kind of maybe my first exposures to being really pulled out by people around me to recognize me as Chinese. I'm actually not even Chinese, I'm Mongolian. So in China, I'm so Mongolian. My name is Mongolian name, and I look like Mongolians to the Chinese people. So, we're always regarded as Mongolians, but here I regard myself as Chinese. And then when I go to Hy-Vee to go shopping, and this has got to be the most stereotype thing that a person would experience. How busy I am with kids and the job. So I do shopping once a week, and I normally do it on Saturday night or Sunday night. So I pull out the card to the cashier at least 2 times, if it is not 3 times. The cashier will be really friendly, goes, "Oh, which restaurant do you own?" So they're considering me purchasing these things for the restaurant. So I would, I know they're trying to establish a conversation with you and trying to be really friendly with you. So I don't take that negatively. I would just say, I wish I owned a restaurant, because we don't have a good Chinese restaurant here anyway, and but I don't know how to cook. So this is just for myself. And so that's kind of, back in the late 90s, and I think we immigrated here in 1996. So around that time, there's a lot of things need to be approved as a person who is not a person that people always see. So I felt like I come a long way myself, and I felt that way at that time. So when we purchased our first house in Ankeny, Iowa, and instead of you bargain on the price should go down, right? So we were bargaining the price going up. And, every time we put in the price to match, the builder come back and raise it. So 3 times. So I have to ask the agent. I said, they don't want to sell to us, right? The agent said, "Oh, no." I said, "Oh, is this the culture here? You bargain going up instead of going down?" Because I'm new to US. Then the agent goes, "No, normally you bargain for down, not up." And I said, then that means they don't want to sell us, right? So the agent didn't really say that, and she nodded. She nodded. So we ended up didn't buy that home, and then later on we found out that was the development Jerry Hub kind of development. And the house we were going to buy was the most expensive house in that development. They just don't want us to have it. And so that's later on we found out. So we even, going through that. So definitely there is a gap between, seeing an Asian, who that Asian is doing, not restaurant owner. Then later on, the secretary I worked with at Iowa State University told me that she know why they don't want to sell to me, because I will bring so many families to the house, because that's what Asian restaurant people do. They have one house and then there's so many people living there. So the realtor just think that you're going to do that. So that's why they don't want to sell to you. So we got an answer. We know the reason. And, with all of that, though, what benefiting I have to tell you is that if you're really excellent and if you're really doing good at work, you get promoted just so much faster. And I can't say that that wasn't my experience. That was my experience. And at Wells Fargo, I worked there for 19 months. I got promoted to vice president of controllers. And maybe it's my luck. And also maybe because they're recognizing minorities in the pool of leaders, and then they want to pull someone representing of certain populations. So I cannot say that my promotion has nothing to do with my diversity background. And I say that has a lot to do with it, but may not be because I'm not qualified so I can become vice president. I think it is a combination of I am qualified, but also it's a great example to bring up. So that's why they promoted me. And I actually knew one of the manager there. He was there. He is a Caucasian gentleman and was there working for 23 years for Wells Fargo, already didn't get promoted instead of me getting promoted. I can't say that's not fair to him or fair to him, but I want to say that, on the surface, feels like I kind of went up to the ladder faster than people who are there for 23 years. So, all these controversies, all these different thoughts, and what I conclude is that it really doesn't matter the environment you are in anyway. So it is really about you trying to seize the opportunity and to grow your business or yourself. So I think I just simply did that. And of course, Community CPA is also a product of diversity. When I was working at Wells Fargo and here in Des Moines, there's an Asian community gone through a huge event, a huge controversy, and it's a thing against the government. What happened is the DNR and charged the Asian grocery store commercializing wildlife. That wildlife is the fish from Des Moines River. The homeless people were getting the fish out of the river, selling it to the store for $1 a tail. The store owners thinking they're helping homeless people thinking they're making $1. That's not so bad. It's easy. So that become a business owner's 20 years sentence, $39,000 penalty, and probation for 3 years. And it was such a charge that people don't understand because they're not killing elephants. They're just getting fish out of the river, right? But it is the same charge as you killing tigers, elephants, and getting the horns and stuff like that. So when that happens at that time, when I was when I'm in Des Moines, so I simply just really start looking into the system. I want to understand why our system doing that to people. So I worked with Drake Legal Clinic, I worked with Ombudsman's office, and I learned my ropes around the government agencies and overturned this whole case in 2004. It took 4 years. I used all of my vacations that I got from Wells Fargo, did nothing but going around the government, going around legal clinics to turn over this case. So when I finished doing this case and a $39,000 refund, the charges dropped, the attorney who represent these Asian owners and actually barred from practice for 6 months. That's how bad it was done, the case. So a total win on that, but the community, because of that, start to gather around me. So, then this business owner actually built my office for me for free. He built office for me and told me that a year, no rent, Ying. You just come here and make us feel strong because we're scared. And if you are here, it's like a dragon here. Because in the Chinese zodiac, it belongs to dragon. So he, that's why he even named his business with the word of dragon. So he is like thinking I am dragon, so I really can protect him. So I was there. That's how Community CPA came about. I am completely not a business person. I have no idea for doing a business like this. So that it came out of this. And so he's like, here is the office and it's all done, no rent, you come. And after work from Wells Fargo, you just come over here so you can help us. Then the next thing I learned is that I need to come up with it's a business, right? So they want me to be a business, but I don't know how to charge people. I'll tell you, this is really, really not me. And so I have such a roadblock. I have a mental block to charge because I grew up in communist country in China. Money is very dirty. And you don't ask anything for money. The Mao's theory is you work for free and everything is evened out, right? So my childhood is in that kind of environment. Our whole family has $20 total in a month in China back then. But that $20 can have a lot of food because money doesn't really mean anything. It's actually a ticket for you to get your share of food. That's when I was little. So money is a huge barrier for me. So when I ask people to pay for service I did, it was like killing myself. I can't do this. And I couldn't really put myself together to do it. So what happened as a result, I will start seeing money getting into the office. Like next day when I come to the office, I'll see cash underneath the door. And then there will be a note saying that this is what you did, so I'm paying you. So people start giving money to what I did. And of course, that business owner who I fought the case for, $39,000 came back to his account. He wants to buy me a car. And I said, no, I don't need a car. He goes, I have to do something with the money. And no, you keep it. So in the end, of course, he built the office for me. But, this is where where I learn and I start to say that, okay, I can charge. So I start lay out what I need to charge. And this is where the whole Community CPA come about. Of course, right now the firm we're 30 people and we're running annual revenue right around 6 million. And so we are a pretty successful practice in town, let's put it this way. But it is not coming without culture improvement, right? It's not coming without me learning culture and also, other people learning me. So right now, you probably imagine that, because all of your account must be from Asian community and, you have a lot of Asian community. That's not true. Our 10,000 clients, at least 50% are Iowans. The Iowans, after the 20 years I'm here in Iowa, they learn me too. So they came to me, they don't even realize I'm Asian. Why would they even see that? They are colorblind, they're race blind. They don't see that, they just know who I am. They hear my story, they know how I come about. So it is all blind into this community, and it really doesn't need to be coming out as a policy to implement. And I always say that there is no policy of implement diversity in Canada. It is just a way of life. So it will be way of life in Iowa. It doesn't matter how behind we are, or maybe it doesn't matter how few people we have, so we don't have that kind of diversity. It just, in time, it will all be there. And I really, I enjoyed to grow up. The business in Iowa is totally a gift. It's a gift from diverse background people. It is a gift from people who are Caucasian and white, but they recognize how to help to turn the case over. I relied on Drake Liu clinics and Bob Ray, and I mean, he is a Caucasian gentleman. So it is, this whole mix of effort, regardless of racial difference, regardless of diversity or not. And it is making up Iowa to be a really unique place. People can really be successful. I always tell my business owners that if you start up a business in Iowa, and you are really in a good place to start out really well, because we are not so big you get buried. We also are not so small we don't have anything. We're perfect place. We're perfect fertile ground for business to thrive. And that is really kind of like, that's my experience. I don't have other experience to tell you, but I can tell you this one. Yeah. A little bit of spill. I don't even know if it makes sense or not, but give me questions and I can answer. Yeah.
No, thank you, Ying, for sharing all that. You just have it's a fantastic story. I had never knew how Community CPA had started up, so it was neat to hear that. I want to talk a little bit about an aha moment I had kind of during this pandemic that you were a part of. Not this past summer, but summer before 2020, and when we realized that so many businesses, particularly minority-owned businesses, were not able to get PPP loans because they didn't have a relationship with a bank or a credit union. And we were fortunate to have you and be able to work with you to surface that. And then the City of Iowa City did a grant program where we were actually able to, we were engaged to help market it and then partner with Community CPA to be able to pay for free, accounting services to businesses that wanted to apply for that grant. So we were able to, plug some holes. But I'm curious, from your perspective, if you would talk a little bit about that and kind of what you see from your vantage point in terms of the holes in our ecosystem and the gaps and where people are being left behind, and how we need to come together and partner to fix some of those holes, plug some of those holes, and to really create a more supportive ecosystem.
So among those people we work with, so quite a number of them are minority-owned small businesses, so small that they probably don't even speak English fully, and they're just running husband and wife and doing things in a very small scale. So a lot of those government grants and the things came out through the pandemic. They really are designed for business with certain scales. For example, for businesses that can produce financial statement, for businesses that has a payroll, for businesses that registered properly, filed all the taxes in 2019 and 2020, right? But there is a whole bunch of small startups don't have any of those things we're talking about. And they're just really, they're just in the infancy, or they're just lacking of guidance in the past to put them on the path to do everything properly and more follow regulatory requirement. There's a lot of that there, and that pandemic assistance kind of missed that piece. So I'm saying miss that piece, not to agree that, okay, people don't have to do financial statement, they should get funded. I'm not saying that, but I feel that it should have a different way to fund individuals who are in business, but the business did not get started, or business is not at the time or the place yet to hire accountant, attorney, all of these things. So those are the gap. I don't think it is really a gap that you and we created. I think it's the gap at the White House. When they make the policies, they are so detached with what's really going on in the business world. And they forgot about there's a bunch of people are struggling, receiving welfare, but at the same time trying to do a little bit of free market, flea market kind of things. They forgot about this group of people. So a lot of this, I really consider that to be a policy. But these policies, folks, in my opinion, it doesn't matter you are Democrats or you're a Republican or you're independent, they're not going to change as long as there is not a organized voice for these kind of people. And, but this kind of people I'm talking about, they really don't have a voice because they're so scattered, and they're also very disorganized. It's not like we can sort a database so we find all of them, because they're not doing regulatory required things. So they're hidden in economy. And in order these people to really come around, actually the government should, if there is a simple solution, should rely on the small nonprofit or chamber of commerce and organizations like that to disseminating support, but no, they're giving it to SBA. Then SBA create this portal. If you don't even know how to log on to the portal, or you don't even have an internet, you're doomed, right? You will never get it. So I felt like the effort didn't really go all the way down, but maybe because it's so urgent, pandemic is so urgent, and I understand all of that. So to plug the hole, I don't think, in my opinion, it is not really about you and about this state of Iowa, not about any level at our level. It is more about the infrastructure. When they think of reaching out to business, and they're completely missing the grassroots part of existing structure, like the small nonprofit, like IES, for example. And if IES, Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit, is a nonprofit I have, if government says, I give you $200,000 in IES, you give to those people who attended your event, because they're all immigrant-owned business owners. So whether they do or not, and maybe we can reach out to them. Maybe they have an IT number instead of social security number. They're not even in the system. Give to them. And you make sure that your nonprofit not going to take any money. Just keep divided that up to your 2,000 attendees, and that's the money they have. I mean, that would be even more effective than SBA creating a portal for you and I jumping through the hoop, trying to figure out how to get the money. When we did RRF, you remember RRF came in with a timeline. Do you know that our folks, we have 30 people in the firm, and half of the people didn't even sleep the night before? Because if we don't put that in, our client will lose the chance to get the money. It's a first come, first serve. How sick is that? That is absolutely sickness from the government. And we still have about 40% of our client didn't get it. They should get it. They didn't get it, because we don't have enough hands to put in all the application for them. And these people are the ones don't even know what internet means. So that's where it's a big issue. But if you ask me, I don't think I voiced my voice enough that to make that heard. I got a chance to talk to all of you. And if you agree with what I am thinking, the changes is really up at the White House, is up at the federal level, and they need to hand over the money to the state, to the nonprofit, instead of them sitting in the White House trying to give out money, because they're only going to take care of their relatives, I'm telling you. If you look at the money came to the small business compared to the one goes to the large business, is piddly, is nothing. And the Donald Trump kind of company is getting a lot of money.
Yeah, and I think I think that's something our community needs to look closely at. And I think the ARPA, the American Rescue Act dollars, is presenting that opportunity. And I know that that our cities and our county are aware of these issues and looking at how can some of those dollars be used to help improve support for our local minority-owned businesses, and how can we control that locally, leveraging federal dollars, but implemented locally, and how do we create, the SBA released a program called the hub and spoke model, and how do we create that here in terms of having an economic development hub, but then working with trusted spokes like Community CPA, Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit, TADS, Iowa Black Business Venture Fund, and those organizations that have the relationships with those hidden, organizations we're trying to serve. And so how to build that out here on a macro level. And that's going to be long-term hard work. I want to flip for a moment, and we can come back to this, but I also want to make sure we talk about things that also we can control within the business partnership. We've got a number of our board members and our ambassadors, with us here today. And I know that they're always anxious to know, okay, what is it that we can control? What is it that the business partnership can do for these businesses, both in terms of outreach? Again, Ying, I remember learning from you, in terms of, marketing the fact that this grant, City of Iowa City grant opportunity was open, and other grants, can't just post it on your website or in any newsletter. You got to put flyers in grocery stores, and you got to show up in person and talk with people. And so, from an outreach standpoint, how do we best reach out to these businesses to let them know we're here, but then also like what programs and services and support system do we need to have, to support these businesses?
So the way when I work on my own business, Community CPA, so obviously I also have goals to reach out to certain ethnic group, right? So I know there's a whole bunch of new refugees just got admitted into Iowa 6 years ago, and the Burmese coming in. So I know there's 200 of them coming in, and I also know that eventually I want them to know to come to Community CPA. So in the process of doing that, I always look out to hire a person from that community to come in to work at a Community CPA. So we have 30 some people representing about 15 different countries. So it's like, from the people that you work with within the partnership, it is really hire that diversity representative, even if it is a mailroom person who sort out your mails, but because they're representing a different group of individuals, so that would still help with getting them to know that that door is open and we can come in. But the other thing is to just really show up in the community. So like I mentioned to you, that grocery stores is actually a really good place for advertising for purpose of reaching out to that particular ethnic group. So I haven't really done that. Reason 2 years because pandemic, but before, when we do Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit, we actually set up a table in the large grocery stores around town, and just to have volunteers sitting there and with IES flyers there. So it really doesn't do a lot, and maybe you got 5 people talking to you, you're good, but still just that visual being there, and that is already giving that, I call that energy. I don't really know how to describe it. I just think that when you are there, your energy will be there, and you don't even need to say a word, but you are already presented. So I really think to have that heart to go in, to put in that time in the community, that's actually very important in terms of outreach. It doesn't, the fancy method like Facebook or Instagram, or you do it on the website, yes, you reach certain people who are in there, but those those businesses that coming out of infancy, they may not be there. So really where they are is there with their community. So you just go in to really participate in the community event. I actually I went several times to African immigrants. They have their own church group, really neatly tight. And I actually go to those service. I go to service to support the pastor, to support their, to give them tithes. So that way, I go for church, but I go to the different one. So that was done very purposefully, just because I want them to know that I care. I'm the only one Asian in that whole, the whole thing, but I don't mind to stand out, and I want them to know. But for me to go, what that says to them? They're actually open to all Asians, not just you. They felt like, oh, wow, this person is coming in. So next time if they see an Asian, they would not be going away. They would be like, oh, you can come to our church. We have people coming here before, So that kind of, how do you describe it? I just call it energy, but my English is a second language for me. So I not always have really good words for everything. Yeah. But that would be my 2 cents. You throw your body in there. That's the best way to do.
And we talked a little bit about, in terms of the value of what a chamber of commerce has to offer to these businesses too. And you mentioned something to me in terms of legitimacy and credibility, which I think we take for granted that that's the fact that, a lot of organizations in general join, for that reason. Say a little more about that.
So a lot of immigrants, especially immigrants coming from war-torn country, they left their country to They left their country on their own to seek for shelters. Basically, they came here, they have this very strong victim mindset. And that will drive for the interactions they have with people. So with government, a lot of those war-torn country entrepreneurs would have a very ill feeling about paying taxes because they have a zero respect to the government. They don't want to pay taxes and they don't respect the government, and they're just they're foreign to the government. So when they are in that kind of mindset, they can be an individual hero, do a very good business on their own, but they may not trust the people around them. It's just because they come from a place that they can't trust anybody. That's why he can sneak out of the country and survive here in US. So, with that, a lot of time to really be part of them and get into almost a reputation of, this person knows you. I have a reputation with the Latino community. People call me Jing in Latino and not Ying, they call me Jing. And the word about me in Latino community is that she doesn't speak Spanish, but you understand her, just go talk to her. So I have people who speak a very small amount of English would sit in my office talking to me in English. And I have a way to speak. Once I know how they speak, I have a way to speak English too, because I know how to limit my vocabularies to, the first 2-3 years in my English time, so I can talk to them. So I think it is really important that to have individually have that trust, and then they will be willing to join your group, because it is a very, very difficult mental shift for people to respect organization, respect government, because they didn't really come from there. And if I have time, I want to tell you a story. This is a real story of a African, very smart African young man, immigrant from Congo. So he came in here, and there's about 200 people in the same village. They all come here as a refugee. I have time, do I, Kim? Okay, so he started up a tax preparation service. And he started up the service. He came to our firm to set up that service. So we did all these PT number of application for him. So set him up so he can do it, right? 4 years later, about 4 years later, he came to me one time. He goes, Ying, do you remember me? I said, of course I do. He goes, if I tell you that I'm going to jail, would you believe it? I said, why? For what? And he said, and he was doing taxes, but he was doing it wrong. He was only cheating on the government. He didn't really cheat on anybody else. He goes, Ying, I pay your bills. I don't cheat on people. I pay, I paid my bills. I just was cheating on IRS. So the way he does it, that tells you he has no respect for the government. Okay. So what he did is he has 7 kids. He will sell 4 of his kids to other people so they can take his kids, apply on the tax return, get additional child tax credit and earn income tax credit. He has been doing that for 2-3 years, get caught, and 4 years sentence in jail. Okay, and literally he's going to come out very soon. And this is a real person, real story here in Iowa, folks. So that's really, this is where, can you imagine that if he made a friend with Kim and join the chamber, would he do that? He would not. He would learn not to do that. He would know the consequences, but he doesn't really trust anybody. He didn't even talk to me about how he does taxes. He only just want me to set the computer up for him. So that's what we did. I would assume that he knows, and he is such a good looking young man. He's better looking than Obama, I'm telling you. He has this body, the way you look at him, you trust him. He's a really good person and a very good person, but didn't understand the rules. Very sad. So I just, those are the things I think we gain the trust, and we really reach out. We just need to reach out one person in one ethnic community, and then you would have that whole team following. And that's how I work my business. And I have one person I know, and I'm interested in developing that relationship. And so, we become natural friends. So I really do have friends speaking all kind of languages. I'm very much not just Asian. I think I'm, naturally very interested in people from all different backgrounds. I just kind of me, being that way.
Yeah, that's what we love about you, Ying. And we've got about, let's see, 10 more minutes here, and I'm realizing I'm hogging the conversation and hogging the questions, and so I want to make sure to open it up to others who are with us here today. What questions might you have for Ying?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, Julia.
Okay, good deal. Ying, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. It's been very eye-opening for someone who has not experienced those types of things, and really grateful for you sharing. I work for a nonprofit called Community Crisis Services and Food Bank, and you have mentioned a number of populations that we are trying to access. We're trying to let them know that our services exist and they're eligible, but we've found it difficult to kind of break into some of those communities, and or we have difficulty translating what we do to how they could use us. And there was one other thing. And just kind of the I learned really recently that, for example, African families think that we call the police if you call our crisis line. So I'm just wondering if you have any recommendations for us on where to start. How can we better access and better serve diverse populations?
I immediately thought of getting volunteers from that community. You don't volunteers a lot of times with Immigrant Entrepreneurial Summit. In the very beginning, we don't have funding. So when we do volunteers, we pay for their bus ticket. If they came for taxi, we pay for their taxi. So we just pay the necessities. And so they get the stipend, they coming in. That is actually the best way to open the doors, because once they are volunteering here, and those volunteers, they're young, they're active, so they go back to tell people what they do there. That would be my first thought of opening up the doors.
Thank you.
Others, questions for Ying?
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you also for sharing your story and all of this information. I think as ambassadors, we do a lot of this in the community already, but we can do even more of the same of what we're doing, just in different cultural areas. And I think that kind of light bulb, it's simple, and we should have maybe considered it before, but it gave me an aha moment hearing you talk today. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to digest as we think through, yeah, there's some really kind of easy lift things that we could do today, and then some, longer tail, efforts that take partnership and working together, and and really being able to not just reach out to those businesses, but support them with things that they need the most. So, yeah. Well, if nobody has any other questions for Ying, we'll wrap up a little bit early here, so you can finish your lunch and get back to your day here. But I too want to thank you, Ying, for spending time with us today. I know it's an incredibly busy time for you in Community CPA, and you're just always just a wealth of knowledge and experience, and always so willing to share that with us. And can't even, express how grateful we are for that. So
thank you for providing the opportunity.
yeah. Well, I know we'll probably see you again soon, and let us know if there's anything that you and your team need from us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and hope to see you all again soon. Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah.